Hello, and welcome to episode 12, all about The Ring Goes South, chapter 3, book 2 of Fellowship of the Ring, being the 12th part of That's What I'm Tolkien About. Hello, my name is Mary Clay. If that's too complicated for you, just call me MC. And today I am joined once again by Christina Kann of Brandylane Publishers. Welcome, Christina.
Thank you. It is an absolute pleasure to be back. I'm honored.
Yes, Christina is our listeners. If you haven't been keeping up with the Kardashians, if you haven't been keeping up with the Tooks, I don't know. Christina was a guest on, I think, episode 2. Yeah, you were on for chapter 2, because I remember that, whoa, what is it about the chapter 2s of this book? Because they are both very hefty and important chapters.
I know, yeah. But luckily this one isn't quite as much exposition. And actually, the funny thing is when you first told me that I was going to be doing chapter 2, book 2.
Well, this is chapter 3, book 2.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, I was I mean, we could do the Council of Elrond chapter again.
No. I just wish, no. But anyway, when you told me I was doing book 2, chapter 3, I turned to it and I was like, wow, Mary Clay has really been reading fast.
I know.
And then are we already here? And then I realized that I had the Two Towers in my hands and I was like, oh, Tolkien and his books. And I forgot that book 2 is in part 1, The Fellowship of the Ring. So I found my way there eventually.
Yeah. I have a question from the internet. And today's question comes from Casey Winters, who will actually, hopefully, if everything goes as planned, will be the guest for next week's episode. So look forward to that, listeners. And he asks, what would Gandalf see in the Mirror of Erised?
A crossover question.
I know. I love them.
It's funny because I highlighted some, definitely more than a couple selections from this chapter of Gandalf being just, really sassy and self-absorbed.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So I feel like he would just see himself. I mean, yeah, I think, okay, to be perfectly honest, my answer to that question is a spoiler.
Oh, okay.
Book one, Gandalf would be a different kind of wizard. I'm gonna put it that way.
I think it's very similar to how Dumbledore answers that question, where in the first book he's like, oh, one can never have enough socks, dear Harry.
I feel like Gandalf would just be like, all the pipeweed.
Yeah, I was gonna say pipeweed. Yeah, pipes and pipeweed. Very, handmade, ancient pipes, and then, pipeweed that's been, I don't know, can you age pipeweed like fine wine? If that's possible, I feel like he would do that. Yeah, but I feel like it would be similar to Dumbledore, how he says he sees socks, but, by the time you get to book 7, you're like, oh, he was probably seeing Ariana and, Aberforth and his dad and mom all together. Oh, no, or as we actually see, I think in the second Fantastic Beasts movie, he sees Grindelwald, which is, I don't know, have you seen the Fantastic Beasts movies?
I have. Come on, you know me.
Okay, I didn't know. Well, I was just asking because Crimes of Grindelwald is an actual crime, so I didn't know if
Thank you so much, because I truly feel that way.
It's a crime against humanity. Crimes of Grindelwald, more like crimes against humanity.
It's just really, if I was teaching a class on writing screenplays and I was, trying to show what not to do,
just show.
I would show them the Crimes of Grindelwald.
Oh my god, it's just so bad.
Sorry, by the way, if you hear a little ASMR of me pouring myself a glass of red wine. But I think Bilbo would appreciate me drinking some red wine.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like that's very appropriate for this book. So, jumping into this chapter, yes, as you brought up, my, main takeaway from this chapter is Gandalf is either so done with these people, or he's just I have no filter at this point, because he's so sassy. Gandalf, I love it.
You just got here, we've got a long way to go. You need to reel it back. The chapter starts right off with Bill, and I know this is your part, but where you say how the chapter starts, but Bilbo's
no, do it, please. Now I can take a sip of water.
Yes. Bilbo's that meeting, the Council of Elrond, and he's I hate meetings. Everyone had an eye-opener, even old Gandalf. And Gandalf says, you were wrong.
Yeah.
You were You were inattentive.
Well,
I already heard about this. He said, I was the only one who was not surprised. Like, Gandalf, shut up.
So, actually, even before that, well, so first of all, so the chapter opens with the hobbits meeting together because Merry and Pippin were not in the meeting. And basically the hobbs are like, all in this together. And
yeah,
like,
it says Merry and Pippin were indignant, and that just about sums it up.
yeah. And
they're like, literally, how could you?
Yeah, and they're mad at Sam because he wasn't even supposed to be there.
I know, but you gotta just be like a go-getter, you know? Sam knows what's up.
Yeah, and so they're like, we're gonna go with you no matter what. And Gandalf comes in right away with a sick burn. So Pippin says, there must be someone with intelligence in the party. Then you certainly will not be chosen, Peregrine Took, said Gandalf. Man, what a burn.
I know. That Gandalf burn, it, like, really hurts.
I love sassy Gandalf. It's so great. Yeah, but like, it's like, yeah, you need someone smart. Oh, so who's gonna go? Because it's not gonna be you, Pippin. But...
and it's lines like this where, like, I just feel like Gandalf in the movie was so perfectly well cast, because you need, like, a sassy, older British man, you know? You need, like, the right kind of guy to deliver lines like this.
Yeah, and I appreciate, whereas Dumbledore is much kinder and just, like, whimsical, I appreciate a lot that Gandalf is sassy and witty.
I think he's like the more pragmatic version of Dumbledore. He's like, we have real, like, Dumbledore obviously has a mission, but he's also like the headmaster of like a school full of minors.
Yeah.
And he's like, he's
got a lot to deal with.
Dumbledore has the ability. Yeah, Dumbledore has the ability to put on these, like, kid gloves.
Yeah.
But Gandalf is like, you need to grow up right now because we are literally walking to Mordor. You need to handle this. Y'all in your shenanigans. You need to get it together.
Yeah, it's, like, almost the opposite. Whereas, like, Dumbledore hid the truth from Harry for so long because he wanted to protect him. And, like, in chapter 2, Gandalf is like, hey, you have this evil ring, and now you have to take it to...
Which is the last chapter I did with you, and it was a whole lot of doom and gloom. He's just like, well, you're screwed. Sorry, Frodo.
Have fun. I'll have to post. I've been really on my meme game lately, and this is like the one skill that I will brag about.
Put that at the top of your resume. Top of your resume, meme
Dank
lord.
Memes. And I made the meme of, it's Gru, and he's looking at the chart, like the piece of paper, like laying out his plan, and it says like, tell Frodo the ring is evil, tell him he has to destroy it, give him no further instructions, and then he turns around and looks at it like, give him no further instructions. What does that mean?
And that just about sums it up. He's like, you're gonna have to do it. This is your burden to bear because, I chose you.
Let me see. I just want to make sure that I'm getting all of the sassiness. Yeah, Bilbo's like, yeah, like, what a meeting. Everyone learned something new. And Gandalf is like, not me. I learned everything. It's fine. I learned everything. He's like, it was you.
It's like Hermione, like,
yes.
We don't, like, we get it. You're smart. Okay, but, like, we're all in this together. Can you kindly shut up?
Yeah.
And then Bilbo says, well, anyway.
Yeah. And, Bilbo just, like, walks right past that, and he's like, so moving on. And, and he blames...
He's like, I'm experienced with Gandalf. He's just like this.
And he blames Frodo for why they're in this, like, problem right now. And he says, it's your fault, partly, Frodo, my lad, insisting on waiting for my birthday. Bilbo, it's also Frodo's birthday. Like, how presumptuous of you to be like, oh, you were waiting for my birthday. He was waiting for his birthday too, Bilbo Baggins. You know, honestly, I need to, like, put that evidence in my book of why Bilbo Baggins is definitely a Slytherin.
Yes.
So.
Just, like, incepting that blame into Frodo.
I think I'm, like, maybe, I don't know. Never mind. I'm just confusing myself.
No, you got it right.
I'm confusing myself about what I haven't had it said on this podcast before. Because I think I've said that, like, all hobbits are Hufflepuffs, and then there's Bilbo Baggins.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and also, I think, I highlighted something else in this paragraph. I just thought it was really funny that he's like, not the day I would have chosen for letting the SBs into Bag End, and I'm just like, that is so close to SOB. You know what I mean? Like, those SBs.
They are.
I just thought that was funny.
Sons of Birkenstocks.
I feel like the Saxonville Bagginses are like legendary for being like the shystiest hobbits of all time. Going
back to my keeping up with the Saxonville Bagginses, that I'd watch.
Saxonville Baggins! Can I take my spoons?
Yeah. So in this chapter, Bilbo, have you seen, it's this video, you might not have seen it because maybe we follow different people on Twitter, but it's this video circulating of this girl, like the caption is like, what it's like when people start singing in a musical, and it's this girl doing all of these like setups for a song, and then she'll pause, and there's one that's like, you're never gonna be cool. 'Cause you're a lesbian, and just all these absurd setups where there's this long pause waiting for the music tracking to come in. And that's what I feel like Bilbo is doing a lot of in this chapter. Well, he'll be in the middle of talking, and then he'll just like sing or recite a poem or a song or whatever, and then just continue on like nothing happened.
I felt like when Bilbo does this first song about how crappy winter is, which like we all know the winter's cold and not good, I rolled my eyes really hard, and I was like, I feel like Merry and Pippin are rolling their eyes really hard right now too.
Yeah, and I wrote down, Bilbo sings this little song about how bad winter, sings this little, and is like, winter sucks, it's evil, but you know, that sounds like a you problem, Frodo, so have fun with that.
But I'm afraid, that I am afraid will just be your luck.
Yeah.
Will be just your luck. And I'm like, that is what people have been saying to Frodo this whole time. Like, dude, what a bad situation you're in. But that's just the luck you've had. And it's like, Bilbo, you did this.
Yeah, he's like, it truly was just like a game of hot potato. And
yeah.
Like, he's like, it's not my problem.
And, you know, I'm not going to spoil anything in The Hobbit for you. Well, maybe like 5% of something in The Hobbit for you, but like
that's fine.
it really is Bilbo's fault. He doesn't come into the ring the same way that Frodo comes to the ring.
Yeah, we know that. I think it was in the prologue or the introduction or something for this book, and then also in the previous chapter, we find out that like Bilbo had just been lying the entire time about how he came into the ring, and told all these people like beautiful fanciful tale, and then in reality he's like, oops, I stole it.
He like found it on the ground. Like, my boyfriend found a ring on the ground for me and brought it home to me, and I was like, this is disgusting. I tried it on, I didn't turn invisible.
Well, then it's worthless, obviously.
Exactly.
I mean, like, what's even the point? Like, if I ever get proposed to, if the ring doesn't turn me invisible, I mean, like, what? Like, why even bother? If the ring doesn't convert me over to the dark side, I mean, you know, why try?
It's called an engagement ring so that because you can turn invisible and avoid engagements.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, I have an engagement at 7 o'clock tonight. I don't really want to go, so I'm just going to put on my engagement ring.
Ring, invisible. Can't see me now. So yeah, they talk about their expedition going out. So at this point, so I know that like Gandalf and everyone else joins Frodo and Sam on their little field trip to Mordor.
The Fellowship of the Ring.
Yeah. Like, I know that's gonna happen because, it's called the Fellowship of the Ring, and also, like, I've seen the movie, and so I know that happens and stuff. So I wonder, like, if I hadn't seen the movie, would I actually have believed that they were just going to send these two little hobbits off by themselves to Mordor? Because it's Gandalf acts like so dramatic. He's like, I think I shall come along with you. And Frodo is like, oh my gosh, thank you. So relieved. Thank you. We were going to die out there. And Gandalf goes, I said, I think I will come. I haven't decided yet. Just kind of seems like a waste of time for Tolkien to like build up this like supposed suspense. Like, ooh, is Gandalf gonna come? Is it just gonna be Frodo and Sam? Are they gonna survive? When like 2 pages later, we find out that all these other people are coming. So,
and I'm gonna ask you to revisit this rant you're on at the beginning of the Two Towers.
Yes. I'm so excited because that means that I said something that was extremely wrong and I can't wait to come back and learn it. Because last episode I said Gollum can't possibly be dangerous if he doesn't have the ring. And my two guests just like laughed at the exact same time. And I was like, okay, so that was a wrong prediction. They were both like, So
yeah, so I completely agree with you. It appears to be wasted build up right now.
So Bilbo's talking about writing his book, and he's like, oh, this will make such a great adventure. And I wrote down, there are two kinds of people. Because Bilbo is like, and they all lived happily ever after. And Frodo's like, I mean, I doubt it. We're probably gonna die, but write your book. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's like, we might die. And Bilbo's like, but I want a happy ending, so try not to die. Okay, have fun.
Have fun, keep a journal. He says that later in the chapter.
Yeah.
I highlighted something that we've passed over. I highlighted where Bilbo says, Frodo says, how long do you think I shall have here? And Bilbo says, before he has to go on his quest. Mm-hmm. And Bilbo says, oh, I don't know. I can't count the days in Rivendell. And to me, that was so, like, Lair of the Lotus Eaters. Like, this guy, he just, like, he's so blissful. He can't even pay attention to how time is passing.
Oh, and okay. I didn't know how to interpret that, so I'm glad I have someone smarter giving me the interpretation there.
Well, but I highlight something a little further down. They're like, okay, we're gonna go on this quest. Well, let's hang out here for a little while until these scouts go out. And then they're talking about their time at Rivendell, and it's like, the future, good or ill, was not forgotten, but ceased to have any power over the present. Health and hope grew strong in them, and they were content with each good day as it came, taking pleasure in every meal and in every word and song. And now I'm like, okay, so Den of the Lotus Eaters, but like, it's a really nice spa where you're just really getting rejuvenated.
Yeah, they're just...
I think everyone wants to be at Rivendell, basically.
Yeah, it sounds like the only, like, I don't know, safe place there is right now. Even though Gandalf was super ominous and is like, the darkness is attempting to penetrate these very walls.
It's a really safe place, but I also feel like it could really consume someone who is susceptible to that kind of stuff. And I almost feel like Bilbo is feeling a lot of relief right now that he managed to get rid of the ring that had been consuming him for all these years. And now he's being kind of consumed by this fairy world.
Because in the previous chapter, it's like officially passed, this quest or responsibility has been officially passed on from Bilbo to Frodo. And now Bilbo is like, oh, thank God. Oh my God, that's such a relief. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna go
I'm just gonna live here with the elves forever.
Gonna go get a massage by the elves, and then I'll go climb a tree sometime, and it'll be great. I mean, my nephew might be dying somewhere, but... At least I got that massage, so.
And I also want to, this is a little bit of a backtrack, but I remember maybe it was last chapter or 2 chapters ago. I think it might have been 2 chapters ago. And you and your guests were talking about the, like, enchantment of the elvish dances, right? Mm-hmm. And that's like a fantasy trope that, like, elvish food and dance can, like, hypnotize a mortal. And I think that is, like, kind of happening to them here. Yeah. They're, like, doing all this. They're doing the singing and the dancing and the storytelling and the food. And I think they're really getting lulled into a false sense of security. Mm-hmm. Like, the future, good or ill, was not forgotten, but ceased to have any power over the present. Like, I think you should be stressing right now.
I don't know. I think it's a comforting thought to be like, yes, we know it's kind of, now that I'm saying this out loud, because I was about to make a comparison. I don't know, it's kind of even when there's like these dark and foreboding forces outside your life and you know that it's inevitable, you can still find those moments of peace. But at the comparison I was going to make is, in modern times, it's like living every day knowing that our world is going to catch on fire at some point.
No, that's true.
And that's the bad part. It's just being like, I Like, there was a hashtag trending the other day about, it was like millennial retirement plan. And I said, I'm not going to, I was like, I'm not going to live to the retirement age because our entire world is going to catch on fire before I reach the age of 70. So.
Yeah, I have a liberal arts degree and a job in publishing. So retirement's kind of a dirty word.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to get there.
Like, honestly, there are so many things that I'm like, I don't think I'm ever in my life going to own a house.
Ooh, marry an engineer. That's what I did. Well, I'm not married, but
I was gonna say, I don't know if I'm ever gonna get married. Boys out there,
that's in my future, good or ill, is my marriage to an engineer.
And the other thing is that, like, can I just say how much I hate the question, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I'm like, honestly, I just hope I'm, like, still alive. Like, I hope I've fed myself properly. I hope that, like, these idiots that drive down Monument Avenue don't run into me as I'm trying to cross the street. PSA, if you are ever driving in Richmond, Virginia, the speed limit for a lot of Monument Avenue is 35 miles an hour. Do not go 45. I will yell at you from the sidewalk.
And those intersections are very confusing.
Gosh. Anyway, I hope I'm employed and clothed and I have a place to live. And ideally, the cherry on top would be that I have a dog. And, like, that's where I see myself in 5 years.
My 5-year plan is, like, one more cat. Because I have 2 cats, and I could do with one more cat. Although right now, one of my cats is scratching at the door of my office. They don't like closed doors. They don't know what I'm doing in here. And they're like, why are you speaking so loudly without me?
I want to be in there. Pay attention to me. You can put the cat on the microphone.
If you think Gandalf's sassy, you don't want to talk to my cat.
It saddens me that I'm allergic to cats because... Actually, you know what? Maybe it's for the better that I'm allergic to cats, but because I feel like by now I would have at least, like, 5. So maybe it's for the best.
I have 2 cats, and in the next couple months, I'm going to start fostering kittens, and I'm really excited. So I'm going to have, like, 10 cats. But you only keep the fosters for a couple weeks.
Oh, my gosh. My roommate wants us to foster a dog, and I'm like, but can we provide the emotional support that dog needs? Like, can we...
Honestly, not to turn this into, like, a totally different podcast, but, like,
please
yes,
do.
You can. That dog needs love, okay?
My main concern is that, like, the dog needs, like, a house with, like, a fenced-in, like, a big fenced-in backyard so they can, like, run around. And, like, the best place... I don't think the best place to foster a dog would be in an apartment. Because we don't have a yard, and I think it would do better, like, getting associated with everyday life if it was in a place with a yard. But, like...
So, after you boo up with an engineer and he buys a house, then you can foster the dog.
Then I can foster a dog. Okay, great. That's my life plan. Where do I see myself in 5 years? Married to an engineer, house with a yard, fostering a dog. In all honesty, though, my dream right now for a dog is I want to rescue a senior dog. And
yes, that's what I was going to recommend.
And then give him, like, a really nice retirement.
Yes, because you know what?
We wear, like, matching Hawaiian shirts. We sit on the couch. We watch TV together. Sounds great to me.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and then I cry when he dies and I never get over it. And then I never adopt another dog.
No, you adopt another senior dog.
I just keep doing this, like, and the cycle never ends of senior dog retirements. So,
what is this podcast about? What are we doing?
So at the end of this section, after they finish chatting, Frodo kind of talks about how he always it's really nice and safe here, but he always feels like there's this presence. And it says, but low in the south, one star shone red. Every night as the moon waned again, it shone brighter and brighter. Frodo could see it from his window, deep in the heavens, burning like a watchful eye that glared above the trees on the brink of the valley. And I wrote down, Eye of Sauron?
Yes. I mean, you've seen the movie, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the thing is that, like, I remember very little about the movie, but, like, I've seen a lot of jokes about the Eye of Sauron.
Like, you know what the Eye of Sauron looks like.
Yeah, and I also know that, like, in general, Tolkien is not very subtle with his descriptions like this. Like, I'm really starting to pick up on the times when he takes the time to describe something really in depth, and I'm like, well, obviously that's like some ominous enemy thing.
Yeah. And honestly, like, I think as the story unfolds and you continue to learn more about Sauron and the way that he kind of monitors things, like, the Eye of Sauron is very, like, real. Like, not that there's, like, a floating eyeball, but, like, he can
that's
see
what
a lot
I've just
of
been
things.
imagining, is that there's just a floating eyeball.
It's like this scary, fiery death thing,
Yeah.
but, like, just... like, knowing knowing how this pans out, right? Not to, like, toot my own horn, but I know how this pans out. Knowing how it pans out and reading a line like this is so chilling.
Yeah, and I also wrote down that Big Brother is watching, because that's what it feels like.
That's literally how it is, and it starts to become this way, like, a little bit later in the book, like...
And even later in this chapter, too.
Yeah, like, we don't know how much Sauron can really see, but, like, they also don't know how much Sauron can really see, and God knows Gandalf is not shedding light on it.
Well, yeah, that's an understatement of the year. Gosh. So as the days or months it says 2 months pass. Once again, like, having a brilliant track record for, like, this urgent thing was just declared. We're gonna hang out for a couple months before we do
We need to send out scouts in every direction.
Yeah, and that's what they do. They send out scouts. They find out that Radagast pieced out. He is not at home. He is like, that's your problem. Have fun.
I'm just like, if you have these scouts that can, like, get into these far reaches undetected to scout stuff, like, why not just send Frodo with one of them?
I don't know, because it has to be symbolic. They have to have the fellowship.
There have to be 9. There have to be 9 in the fellowship.
We'll get to that in a second. But they find out that the Black Riders survived. They tracked down, kind of figured out what happened to 8 of the 9. Right. And I'm like, well, that one that they didn't account for, that's going to show up later on, I'm sure. And then they also discovered that the black horses died, which they did not deserve.
This is something... Do you watch Game of Thrones?
I do not. I do not have the attention span.
In Game of Thrones and a lot of other movies and books, horse lives are not valued the way that they should be. Like, people be like, I'm gonna kill your horse to unhorse you. And it's like, that is not how we do things here.
And I was gonna say, it also... must have been a really powerful, because I think it was the river, for Tolkien to have killed these horses must have been really powerful, because he loves horses, as I discussed in the previous chapter. Like, he loves these ponies, and for him to kill them means that it was really powerful magic.
Literally, I think the most relatable thing in this entire series to a contemporary reader, it comes up a little bit later in the chapter, but I don't think it's that big of a spoiler.
Is it Bill the Pony?
Bill the Pony! That is something that some Gen Z would just be like, yeah, his name's Bill. Like, that is, like, such a contemporary joke. Tolkien was ahead of his time.
Oh, I love it so much. Like,
it's beautiful.
Bill the Pony as opposed to Bill the Human. Like,
and, like, I want to know how... I feel like today the name Bill has such a daddish connotation, like a businessy dad.
Such a
and
dad
I want to
name.
know... Yeah, like, I want to know when Tolkien was writing this, like, what kind of a name was Bill?
Yeah. It's like, have you seen jokes about, like, let's say, like, you meet someone named Craig, or you meet a woman named Sharon, and it's like, oh my god, that person was once a baby. Like, there was a baby named Sharon. There was a baby named Craig. And it's like, I don't know how to talk to you, Craig. Like, do you have a mortgage? You're 8 months old. Oh god, I just almost knocked my microphone off the table. That's fine.
Are you at a library again today?
No, I am not. It's a little convoluted, because I don't have a desk. So, what did I write down? I wrote down, not the horses! They did nothing wrong.
I think we're at Elrond summoned the hobbits to him.
So he calls basically everyone. I wrote down, I think it's a steaming hunk of BS that Elrond is like, I can help you no longer. And I'm like, I'm sure you could.
Yo!
But
seriously.
Okay, fine. There's just a lot of, like, very powerful, important people in this book not going along on the field trip as a chaperone just because they decide they can't.
Yeah, it's kind of like when Gandalf would not touch the ring. He's like, "Oh, I'm too important to touch the ring," and it's like, "Well, I'm just a little hobbit," and now Elrond's like, "I can't go," and it's like, dude, come on, we need you. Like, send an army.
And I guess I can come up with like a reasoning for this is that maybe Elrond needs to stay behind at Rivendell so that he can be a leader there if, like, the dark forces penetrate Rivendell and they have to do something there. So I guess I can believe that, and maybe it's a better, like, use of their resources to send Legolas as opposed to Elrond to represent the elves, so...
Legolas isn't even from Rivendell. He doesn't even go here. He's from the Mirkwood. Yes. At least 2 elves would be a lot better. As we learn later in this chapter, elves can come in handy.
Yeah. Oh my god, that's wild. So I'll just read this, because it's very official. Elrond says, "The Council of the Ring shall be 9, and the 9 walkers shall be set against the 9 riders that are evil. With you and your faithful servant Gandalf will go, for this shall be his great task, and may be the end of his labors. For the rest, they shall represent the other free peoples of the world, elves, dwarves, and men. Legolas shall be for the elves, and Gimli, son of Gloin, for the dwarves." So we basically got... I just had a lot of thoughts, so I'll read them out.
I have a lot of thoughts, too.
The first one is that I feel like if you're trying to be a match for the writers, I feel like you're allowed to have more than 9. Like, I feel like you should bring more than 9 if you know you're going to go up against... If you know you're going to go up against 9 writers, maybe you should bring more than 9 people, especially because the 4 hobbits really only count as idiots. 1 person.
Yeah. Okay, first of all, as I said, send an army. I got a little bit more wine pouring ASMR for you. I don't know if you can hear it, but...
Yes, I love it. Wish I had one. I just have dumb water.
So I also, I've only read this book a couple times, and I've seen the movie. I've seen the movie a lot more than I've read the book, let's put it that way. And I was just, like, really struck upon rereading this chapter at how different this is than the movie, because in the movie, this part happens during the Council of Elrond. I don't remember exactly how it happens, but it's like, who wants to go with this guy to Mordor? And Legolas is like, "You have my bow." And then my favorite part, everyone's favorite part, is Gimli goes, "And my axe!" And it's like all really they're all volunteering really nobly. And in the book, Elrond's like, "I have assigned people to accompany you."
I was gonna say, it's like it's very official here. Like, he's appointed.
Yeah, it's not as heartwarming, and
yeah. And there are 2 spots left, and Merry and Pippin are like, "Awesome, there's room for us." And here's a piece of Elrond logic for you. He decides that Pippin can go with the gang because it's too dangerous to send him back to the Shire. He's like, you're so young, and I think it would be too dangerous to send you back to the Shire, so yeah, you can go on this life-threatening journey. That's fine. And then Merry is like, "Well, I'm gonna go too, and shut up, and I'm doing it."
And basically, he's like, "Make me.
Yeah.
Make me go back to the Shire." But I also noted, like, how desperately grateful Frodo is that Aragorn is going to be going with them. He's like, literally, God. "You are the only voice of reason in this. Thank you so much."
Yeah. Like, honestly, they would be dead without him. But
I also highlighted where Aragorn says, like, "I'm going," and he says, "And the sword that was broken shall be reforged." I highlighted that because, as some of you may know, I have a tattoo on my back of the broken sword Narsil before it was reforged.
Yes, and which, side note,
that's a little shout out to my tattoo.
I get it now, because when you were when you were telling me about it beforehand and, like, showing me, like, sketches of it or whatever, I think before you had gotten it, I was like, yeah, cool knife.
Cool sword, bro.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know what this means.
So at long last, I'm going to send you a picture of my tattoo to post on your Instagram because it is finally a little bit relevant.
I know what this is now. Honestly, that's like such a running thread throughout this series is like,
I know what this means now.
Like, yeah, I know what this is now. Yay.
I was laughing so hard when you were like, I think that we're gonna meet the one does not simply walk into Mordor meme guy. Yeah. And I was like, Mary Clay, I'm so glad you're finally gonna get to meet this guy.
Oh yeah. I brought him up so many times because I thought he was Aragorn. So
I thought that too, like when I was a kid, before I got into the movies, and also before I got into the books, because their hair and their facial hair is the same, and I didn't know who Sean Bean was at the time.
They're both like burly white men with long hair and beards. Like,
yeah, exactly. But I think we all know now that as sexy as Boromir is, Aragorn's sexier. I think that's something we can all agree on. And I think that you will, by the end of the book, and maybe the beginning of the next book, you'll realize that Boromir is way more than his meme, although that's a great meme.
I'm glad to hear that because in the last chapter, he was just annoying. I was like, this is...
He definitely is, like, the most, I think, like, pragmatic. This is not his... Like, this ring situation is not his number one concern.
Yeah.
But
he's like,
he grows on you, I promise.
What if we wear it? So I want to read this one line from the SparkNote summary because it's so brilliant. I love it. It says, Elrond is hesitant to send Merry and Pippin as he is unsure of what they could contribute, which is just so
and you know
accurate.
Decoys. They're all hobbits are decoys.
Yeah.
And they're like, that sounds good to me. I'd be a great decoy.
Oh, okay. Here's the thing. Maybe I misread this. Maybe I am not interpreting it correctly. But, so Aragorn gets his sword repaired by the elves.
Hold on. You know what? Maybe I'm biased because I have a tattoo, but, like, this is a beautiful paragraph.
Okay.
Forged anew by elvish smiths. On its blade was traced a device of 7 stars set between the crescent moon and the rayed sun, and about them were written many runes. I just, this is a big moment. I just want to say this is a big moment.
Okay. I'll let you sit in your big moment for a minute before I trash it.
It's not just because of the tattoo. Like, this is a big moment. Aragorn is like, I don't want to say he's the protagonist of this story because I've previously stated that Sam is the protagonist of the story, but, like, Aragorn is, like, he's, like, the backbone of this story.
Well, I mean, supposedly, Return of the King is about Aragorn, or at least, like...
That's hearsay.
So... in my mind, at least, at this point, it's about Aragorn. So, like, if the...
It's a great theory.
Anyway, so here's my thing is, I thought the sword had to, like... I thought the broken sword had to be fixed in some special ceremony or whatever. If it was just a matter of the elves doing it, why wasn't it done before now? Like, why, like, I thought the sword being broken was a symbolic thing, and he had to carry the broken sword with him forever until it was time for him to be restored to the throne, and then once his title as true king is given back to him, the sword shall magically be No, it's literally, like, fixed in the matter of one sentence.
I hear you. and what I say to you is, keep reading, girl.
Oh, boy. One of my favorite parts of recording these episodes is when I ask a question or make some, like, bold
and your guest
statement,
is just, like, silent.
And there's just, like, there's either, like, dead silence, stuttering, or just, like, laughter. And I'm like, okay.
And for me, it's, like, genuinely, like, I have to have a moment where I ask myself, is this a spoiler? Because to me, it's all kind of...
Yeah.
It's like, all one body, of work.
Yeah. Well, and I totally get where you're coming from because, like, for example, Snape kills Dumbledore was once a huge spoiler. And then now it's just kind of, and same with, like, Harry was a Horcrux. Like, these are things that, like, we all just kind of assume everyone knows now. And if you accidentally say it to someone and spoil it, you're just kind of like, well, I mean, it was Harry Potter. Like, what have you been doing for the last, like, 15 years?
The last episode I was on, you and I were talking about the statute of limitations on spoilers. And we were talking about how Marvel is so secretive with their spoilers that they don't even tell the actors what's going on.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So yeah, but I'm like, if it's something sensationalized like Endgame, I'm gonna spoil Endgame for you by now because you should know. You've had plenty of time, you know.
Are you gonna say it?
No, I'm not.
Listeners,
I'm not
turn it off. Turn it off in 3, 2, 1. Tony Stark dies.
No.
Captain wields the hammer. He grows old with Peggy Carter. Oh my god, that's the part that got me. Is he's with Peggy? So here's the thing.
Stop! I can't handle you evoking both Harry Potter and Endgame while we're talking about Aragorn's sword
together through the entire movie until they did the last scene of the camera swooping in and showing Steve and Peggy dancing. Which, by the way, side note, I'm pretty sure, in Winter Soldier, when Steve comes home and Nick Fury is sitting in the living room and the music is playing loudly, I'm 90% sure that the music that is playing in that scene is the same song they use for the song that Peggy and Steve dance to at the end of Endgame. And to me, that's so beautiful because it means that this song has held such meaning in Steve that he, like, Fury wouldn't have just, like, gone through his record collection to pick out something specifically. He probably just picked whatever was on top of the pile and put it on. Or it was already sitting on the record player and he just turned the knob. So that means that Steve has been listening to the song or listens to it frequently, or it's his favorite one because he's always imagined that he and Peggy would dance to the song.
Or it means that Marvel does cut corners in some places and they only paid for one
And
song.
they only have one old-timey song.
No, I like your theory better.
Thank you. So, back to this book.
Yeah, wait, what universe are we in? Oh, Middle Earth. So the sword was reforged anew by Elvish Smith.
Yes, the sword was renored anew. God, I can't talk.
And then it says Aragorn and Gandalf walked together or sat speaking of their roads and the perils they would meet. And I feel like they are the only parents on this road trip.
Oh, yeah. They're the only ones that really know what's going on.
Yeah, and that that pops up again later in the chapter. Mm-hmm. Like they're the grown-ups. Even Boromir is like not really a grown-up. Definitely Legolas and Gimli aren't grown-ups.
Yeah, and certainly not the hobbits. But like, yeah, Aragorn and Gandalf are definitely leading their own thing here. And they're the ones that know what's going on, but they just don't want to... I'll put it like this. All of the guests that I have on this podcast are Aragorn and Gandalf, and I am the hobbits.
Oh my god, that's beautiful.
Like, I have no idea what's really going on.
So pure.
And y'all are the ones that actually know what's happening here. So...
I can only hope to have half the sass of Gandalf in my life.
Oh my god, don't we all? So, Frodo and Bilbo have a little chat, and Bilbo gives Frodo some of his belongings and things that he used before, including armor and a small sword that is named Sting. And I love that so much because it kind of it implies that, like, it's such a like, if it's a small sword for a hobbit, it's got to be a small sword, like a tiny little knife almost.
Yeah, it's probably like a dagger.
It implies that, like, if he were to stab anyone, it would just feel like a sting.
That's kind of like, I know you don't watch Game of Thrones, but tiny Arya in Game of Thrones has a sword called Needle, and it's like equally adorable.
Oh, that's so cute.
But I'm also just really happy because the last episode I was on, you were like, is Bilbo dead? Like, I hope Bilbo's not dead. And I'm like, I don't know, keep reading.
Yeah, I remember.
So I'm glad that you quickly got the payoff.
Yeah, I was like, I really hope we see Bilbo again at some point. And I was so pleasantly surprised when he showed up. I was like, yes, Bilbo, my old friend.
Yes. And that's what he would say if he saw you. He'd be like, Mary Clay, my old friend, come by the fire.
Yeah, so Bilbo sets Frodo up with some weapons and armor, finally. Like, why did we not give the one who's in the most danger some sort of, like, armor or
before
weapons,
he got bitten or whatever?
Yeah, because Bilbo says, like, if you had this armor on before the sword of the Black Riders might not have even gone through. Like, you might have been fine. So,
yeah.
About time. And then he, once again, sings a song.
Once again, I skipped it.
Well, it's funny because I skim all of the songs, and then if it seems like it's important or pertinent to the plot, I will go back and actually read it. But this one actually, it felt really nice. Like,
it's very Bilbo-y.
Like, it felt very much like, I'll sit here, like, I know you're going off for a long time, but I'll sit here and wait, and I look forward to the day that I hear a knock on the door and you're back safely. And that's just, like, a nice little sentiment to leave Frodo with.
He couldn't just say something.
He had to sing it.
Sing it out.
It's like I said, he lives in a musical. And then we get Tolkien's fashion show, which I tweeted a GIF. So he goes into, like, detailed descriptions of what everyone is wearing, like, and I tweeted the GIF of fashion show at lunch, because that's what it felt like, of just everyone showing off what they're wearing for the next forever.
Exactly, for the next forever. And it also felt like weirdly like when you have like a very early field trip or something and you and all your friends are super tired, but you're still excited to be together and you're all just sitting around being like, can we get started?
Yeah. And then Boromir has a horn and he blows the horn, I guess, to prove that it works or something. And Elrond is boy, that's for emergencies.
It's tradition.
Oh my god, flashbacks. 6th grade, Fiddler on the Roof, daughter number 5.
I did mine in 11th grade.
Oh my god. And then as they're leaving, Elrond and Gimli, I feel like could go back and forth forever in these, like, metaphors or something. Yes.
Well, okay, I highlighted this whole stupid paragraph that Elrond is like, basically Elrond says Frodo's screwed, like, in a very long paragraph. He's like, the ring bearer is setting out on the quest. He's like, you guys can bail if you want to. And, like, I know you think that you might not be afraid, but later you'll probably be afraid, and you can bail if you want to, but Frodo's the only one who can't bail.
Yes. Thank you for bringing up this actually important plot point instead of the fashion show. But, yeah, Elrond is like, so, as you all remember, Frodo is the one who has to carry this ring, and only Frodo. Only unless he's dying can you pick up the ring instead.
Yes.
Y'all can peace out if you want, but Frodo, you're in it, boy. You're in it to win it.
Yes. And then him and Gimli have a very adorable back and forth.
Yes. So Elrond says, for you do not yet know the strength of your hearts, and you cannot foresee what each may meet upon the road.
Which is fair.
Yeah. Faithless is he that says farewell when the road darkens, said Gimli. Maybe, said Elrond. But let him not vow to walk in the dark, who has not seen the nightfall. Yet sworn word may strengthen quaking heart, said Gimli. Or break it, said Elrond. Like, this goes on for, like...
And that's, like, the drop. He's like, or break it, and done.
Yeah, like... Yes, and then Bilbo says goodbye, and is like, it would be nice if you could keep a journal to you know, remember your adventures, so I can write about it in my best-selling book.
Like, I'm a very well off, like I'm a privileged AF, like, gal. I'm going on vacation, right? And my mom's like, you should keep a journal. And I'm like, I don't have time for that. And Frodo is the opposite of privileged right now. He is being thrown into the lion's den, and Bilbo's like, keep a journal. Like, hey, if I can't keep a journal, Frodo can keep a journal, okay?
Hey, when you're not getting killed by black riders, can you, like, write down what's happening so that I can write a book about it later? Okay, thanks!
Take pictures.
Yes. And then, then we meet Bill the pony.
Bill the pony.
Sam insists that they take this pony because he has improved a lot since they've been in Rivendell. He insists that the pony would just follow them if they left without him. And he names him Bill.
It's the best. He's so cute.
I put Bill the pony. I hope he's okay. So I hope he doesn't die. Frodo, Gandalf, Sam, whatever. Just don't touch Bill the pony. I know I've, like, been over this a billion times, and I've had a lot of people give me a lot of explanations, so you don't have to give me one. But I still just don't like this plan that Frodo is the only one who can carry the ring. I still think that's just not good, but okay.
Tell me how much you don't like it at the end of the trilogy.
Oh, jeez. And, okay, so here's my question. They are instructed or advised to walk under the cover of night. But we know the riders are stronger at night, / they are kind of weaker or weakened or whatever in the daylight or something. So if why would you travel at night if the evil guys are stronger at night?
Because I think that other things that operate better during the day might still be in the service of Sauron, basically. A lot of their caution comes from literally not understanding. When we were talking about the eye in the sky, right, the star in the distance, and, like, they don't know how much Sauron can do. Now that we're leaving Rivendell, that really starts to show that no one here, and I think even Gandalf truly understands how much Sauron can see.
Okay. They'd rather, I guess, run into the evil that they know than the evil that they don't know. Sure. Let's go with that.
Yeah. And I think that they think that the riders, I think that they're banking on these ring wraiths having to regain their strength right now. There's something in this chapter at some point about them, like, going back to their lord without their bodies or whatever.
Ugh, creepy. And
trying to, like, reform. Yeah, I don't know where that is exactly.
They gotta pull a Voldemort book 4.
Yeah, a full Voldemort.
Hand of the servant and the blood of the enemy
And Sauron's like, literally, I've already done this for you guys. Can you please just keep your bodies this time?
So they begin the long walk. They come up and at one point Pippin is like, oh, I guess we accidentally turned west because the mountains are over there. Gandalf saved his roast for Butterbur and is now putting them all on Pippin.
I know.
So Pippin says, or Gandalf is like, no, we're not where you think we are. He says, there are many maps in Elrond's house, but I suppose you never thought to look at them.
And, like, Pippin, much like me, is like, I literally looked at them, and I just can't memorize them. What do you want from me?
Pippin goes, yes, I did sometimes, but I don't remember them. Gosh. Which I can't blame Pippin, because maps are...
No, definitely not.
Amazing.
And then they start talking... There's a paragraph coming up that is, like, so Tolkien, where he's, like, just naming names. He's like, look at all these cool names I can invent.
I can't stand
He's like, Khazad-dûm, Dwaro Elf, Moria, and Barazinbar, and Redhorn, and Karadras. And it's like, only one or two of these is relevant to our story at all.
Exactly. Yeah, it's Gimli and Gandalf going back and forth for like a page and a half to be like, over there, like, oh my god. It's literally just like Tolkien showing off.
Names,
being
all
like,
kinds
look
of
at all of
names.
these things, look at all these places I created.
So you know I'm an editor, and if this was a book that I was editing, I would highlight this and be like, I would add a comment that was like, I hope these become relevant later, or else I'm going to recommend removing them.
Yeah, be like, is this necessary? The way that Tolkien gives these names and places reminds me of another podcast called Hello from the Magic Tavern. Oh my god, Mary Clay, that is my literal favorite podcast of all time.
Really? Next to yours.
Reminds me of Usador's intro. How he's
Usador,
like,
I am the 12th realm of Ephesians.
Manipulator of light and shadow, master of the 12th realm. Like,
that podcast made me want to do improv, and now I'm doing improv. Like, I love that podcast so much.
Yeah, Usador's name and his introduction just reminds me of how Tolkien will just throw these names out and how he'll say, like, oh, that place is the Black Pit, or as the elves know it, Moria, or as the dwarves know it. And that's exactly like Usador's, like the elves know me as Fang Yellick, the dwarves know me as Zonin Hoopstengies,
Hoobastank.
The pixies call me blah blah blah, like that. It feels very Tolkien-esque. Anyway, so this book, Lord of the Rings and Tolkien.
Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring.
Where were we? So Gandalf had just roasted Pippin about not understanding maps.
That could be anywhere in this book.
Yeah, and then they decide to like camp for the night. And Aragorn comes back and is like, I have bad feelings about this place. When Aragorn comes back and says that, you GTFO. Like, you leave immediately.
Yes, and I think Gandalf says, we must be more careful. If you bring a ranger with you, it is well to pay attention to him, especially if the ranger is Aragorn.
Yeah, but then they sit there for like another day and a half.
Yeah. I think,
they really
I read this maybe
that
like,
rest.
I read this for the first time maybe like 5 years ago, and I've read it a couple times since then, and now as like an almost 30-year-old, it's really obvious to me how much traveling with hobbits is like traveling with toddlers.
Oh, yeah. One of my friends texted me and was like, how often do you think Aragorn let the hobbits stop for bathroom breaks?
Exactly. I think, well, Aragorn's a great guy, so I'm like, maybe every time they needed to go. Yeah. But Gandalf, no.
Yeah. But yeah, Aragorn comes back and is like, I don't have a great sense of this place. And he says that he can kind of, it's like a really creepy, like, description. And he says that he can, like, hear and feel everyone's voices echoing off the ground, and, like, he can hear everything. And Sam takes watch that night and is kind of all alone. And that's when, like, as he's sitting in silence, he understands what Aragorn meant. And it says, the breathing of the sleepers could be plainly heard. The swish of the pony's tail and the occasional movements of his feet became loud noises. Sam could hear his own joints creaking if he stirred. Like, he can hear literally every single movement. It's so creepy.
Yeah, as an almost 30-year-old, I really relate to that, could hear his own joints creaking line, yeah.
If I lie down flat onto the floor, my spine cracks in at least 5 places. Like, just from lying down flat on the floor.
We're old.
Yeah. Like, it reminds me of, I think it's in season 3 of Sherlock. There's this one of the BBC Sherlock. There's this one episode where, like, they'd just gone out partying and then they wake up hungover. And the way that they, like, filmed the scene where, like, they're waking up in the prison cell, like, hungover, it shows here's also a Lord of the Rings connection because it shows Martin Freeman. Like, it shows him, like, opening his eyes and slowly blinking them, and like you can hear like his eyelids crunching, and it's really gross, and you just get this feeling of like, oh, gross, like that's awful, and that's just what this feels like.
Yes.
And then my nightmare happens, and they're sitting there in this flock of birds described as a kind of crow of large size, which is something out of my nightmares. Like, crows, I don't mess with you. No. Get out of here. So yeah, these birds come flying over, and they're like the secret watchmen for evil, I guess, or spies. They're bird spies.
Yeah, bird spy sounds right.
Bird spies. Yeah, it's all cool. Cool. This is the point where they're like, yeah, let's leave now, after the evil birds have come for us. And as they're continuing on their journey, this is when, Frodo notices again that Gandalf and Aragorn are off on their own having their conversation about what to do with the class next. And they're talking about the path to take. And there's some kind of dark and secretive path that sounds dark and secretive that Aragorn, they're both like, well, there is this one way we could go. And Aragorn is like, but we cannot go that way. So I'm sure at some point they'll go that way. That's just kind of how things happen in this book, I'm learning.
Yes.
And then they reach the mountains, and there's a big, or I guess they've been in the mountains, but whatever. They
get into the mountains proper.
Yeah.
As we would say.
Yes, the mountains proper. As I've been referring to, in my head, I've been referring to October as spooky season proper.
That's really cute.
Like, we're in, like, for me, spooky season starts like September 1 and runs until like November 30th, but October is spooky season proper. So
yes, I love
and that's
that.
When I'm waiting until spooky season proper to do my rewatch of The Haunting of Hill House, because that's such a great
Oh my god, I'm
series.
so glad you said that, because I was just being like, should I rewatch that?
Yes,
and now you've inspired me.
Oh, it's so good.
Because I've watched it and I'm like, I think it's time to rewatch it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I've been feeling like, and I feel like it, Halloween,
that's
October is a good time to rewatch that show. So they get into the mountain proper, and this huge snowstorm hits, and Gimli is like, well, obviously it's this evil spirit, Caradhras. Yeah, that's it.
I think that's the name of the mountain.
Oh, is it?
I'm pretty sure that's the name of the mountain.
On the third morning, Caradhras rose before them. Oh, okay. Never mind. Oh, I thought they were just kind of... But,
the mountain has a spirit, you know what I mean?
I was going to say, the way they refer to it, the mountain is kind of like, oh, the mountain is mad that we're here, so it's storming on us a lot. Sam makes a comment that the snow is nice, but I prefer to view it from the inside of a house next to a window with a cup of cocoa. And basically, Sam is just a basic white girl. Yeah, and I highlighted this. Just another sassy Gandalf line. Yeah, they're talking about, like,
sassy Gandalf.
What the name of the mountain is, or the spirit of the mountain, or whatever. And Gandalf goes, "It matters little who the enemy is if we cannot beat off its attack." So basically, like,
That's
shut
true.
up. I don't care what it's called. It's snowing a lot, so we have to deal with it.
Yeah.
And so they trek on, and the snow is just, like, unbearable, and it gets to a point where, like, the hobbits can't even walk in it, and like, Gimli's having trouble.
You have to remember that, like, we have this image of the hobbits from the movies as being, like, you know, I'm only 4 foot tall, or whatever. But, like, in the books, the hobbits are supposed to be a great deal shorter.
Yeah, like, they're tiny.
Like, they cannot handle.
And so, so I just have to, like, this part really confused me. So they're talking about, like, what to do and how to, like, melt the snow or make a pathway or something. And Legolas says, "If Gandalf would go before us with a bright flame, he might melt a path for you." And then Gandalf says, "If elves could fly over mountains, they might fetch the sun to save us," answered Gandalf. And so I was like, okay, Gandalf, like, calm down. Like, Legolas was just, like, suggesting something actually kind of helpful. And you were like, well, maybe if elves could fly, they could bring us the sun and we wouldn't have this problem.
Just to reiterate, I work at a publishing house, and so books are our bread and butter. And I was reading this, like, a final review today at lunch at Brandylane, and I was, like, reading these things out loud. And this is one that I definitely read out loud, because I was like, why is that your response? So if I was fighting with my boyfriend and he said that, I would be like, what are you even saying?
And so then sorry, just laughing because when I was reading this, I just sat there and I said, what? Because, God, I should have, because then it says, Legolas watched them for a while with a smile upon his lips, and then he turned to the others. "The strongest must seek a way, say you. But I say, let a plowman plow, but choose an otter for swimming, and for light running over grass and leaf, and for over snow, an elf." With that, he sprang forth nimbly, and then Frodo noticed, as if for the first time, though he had long known it, that the elf had no boots, but wore only light shoes, as he always did. And his feet made little imprint in the snow. "Farewell," he said to Gandalf. "I go to find the sun." Then swift as a runner over firm sand, he shot away, and quickly overtaking the toiling men with a wave of his hand, he passed them. And I legit thought that Legolas flew off into the sun. The way that he...
Farewell.
The way that he wrote it. So I was like, oh no, Gandalf wasn't actually making fun or being sassy back to Legolas. He was actually instructing him to fly off to the sun, because I wrote in all caps, what exactly can elves do? Because I don't...
And that's a great question.
I was like, can elves fly? I legitimately thought that Legolas had flown into the sky and was gonna bring back, like, I mean, not the literal sun, but I was like, oh my god, Legolas is he's flying.
I just love this whole exchange because, like, Legolas is sassy in a way that I think is perfectly exemplified by Orlando Bloom in the movies.
Oh my god.
And I've previously said that I think that Gandalf is perfectly well cast. It's just, they're both so sassy, but, like, Legolas is sassy in, I think, a more low-key way than Gandalf. I love this part. I highlighted it, you know, when he just, like, runs off.
Yeah.
He's like, well, I could have been doing this the whole time, but...
It, really reminds... There's this one line or passage from A Midsummer Night's Dream where Oberon is telling Puck to, like, run off and do something. I just hit my microphone. It's fine. I'm a professional.
It's fine.
Oberon is telling Puck to, like, run off and do something, and Puck goes, I go, look how I go, swifter than the arrow from the Tartar's bow, or something like that. God, I hope that's
yes.
it. But, it just, I don't know, the like spirit of that line just felt like so alive, and Legolas being like, all right, I'm off to fly around the sun, hachi-tachi-ta.
It's like, yeah, like they're still having fun even though they're in a terrible situation.
So Boromir and Aragorn go along and they kind of make a path, and then they come back and they give piggyback rides.
Literally the amount that okay, I was talking about this at work today to Haley, who you really need to have on this podcast because she loves Lord of the Rings as much as I do. Okay. About like how much the hobbits get carried and how okay they are with being carried. Yeah. As a human adult, I would be like, no, don't carry me. I have legs. But literally they're like, I'm tired, mommy, carry me.
Well, it is
so funny.
To me, it feels like Boromir and Aragorn giving them like piggyback rides to me sounds like something that I would read in like Lord of the Rings fan fiction that's like trying to be extra cutesy. Like,
yes, it's not cutesy. This is how it really happened.
Yeah, I can't believe it actually happened. But so they get to the end of this mountain and they're out of the storm and the snow slowing down, and essentially nature 1, fellowship 0.
Yeah, yes, exactly. That's a beautifully succinct summary.
Hopefully the tables turn at some point. Oh, I think they make a point in a comment at some point in this chapter where they're like, oh, I hope it gets warmer. And someone's like, oh, it will, because we're going to a volcano full of like evil fire. So don't you worry, it'll warm up.
Yeah, you'll be really warm when you melt.
Yeah, so... Well, that is the end of that chapter. Well, Christina, what would you like to plug or share with our audience?
I work for Brandylane Publishers. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can find me personally on basically just Instagram. My handle was different on my last episode. Now I'm at Ya Girl of the World. That's YA Girl of the World. And also, I just want to let anyone in the Richmond or Virginia area know that Brandylane Publishers is hosting the RVA Book Lovers Festival next month on October 19th at Jefferson Park. It's like it's a local author event. There's going to be some good food, good crafts, a lot of really cool local books, talks all day long, poetry readings, kids activities, and you can find out more at rvabookloversfestival.com.
Yes, I'm so bummed out that I like can't be involved this year just because my life is too crazy elsewhere, but like...
You were really involved last year and we will always remember you fondly for that.
Man, oh man, that children's stage.
I know. It was raining. It was raining,
and the children, I mean, like, you go up to a child who's happily playing on a playground and say, like, hey, you want to come listen to a book? Like...
Even I, who loved books as a child, would be like, no, I'm playing. But that being said, I do think it's going to be a delight this year, so everyone come out and bring your children.
Yeah. That's What I'm Tolkien About is a production of Bacon and Eggs. You can learn more about them by going to baconandeggs.media. The cover art is by Graphite, aka Vaishon Brandon. You can support him on Instagram at graphite.vmb. You can find the podcast on Twitter and Instagram at TolkienAboutPod. You can find me on Twitter at MCWatt416 and Instagram at MCTurnedDownForWatt. And also, I want to show my thanks and appreciation for those of you who are listening right now in these early episodes in this first book that I'm going through. And if you are interested in receiving a surprise in the mail, please follow the link in the description, in the episode description, and you will see what I have in store.
Ooh, that sounds exciting.
Yes. All right. Well, all that being said, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share with the class?
It's hard to share final thoughts at this point without sharing spoilers, so I'm just really excited to see where this journey takes you, Mary Clay, and I would love to come back for a chapter in the Two Towers because that is an incredible book.
And that's what I'm talking about.